Hello. I will be playing Hardware 4. Sorry, I had the burp. But more specifically, the Yellowstone or Old World Blues mod. And we're going to play the new content for the Yellowstone Park. In this little blurb, it says defend the park as the park rangers or discover Poseidon Energy's true machinations as the EPA. So let's give that a try here. I actually don't know where they would be considered. Like maybe here. And I think after this, I will try to play Matson, or the Baggers. Haven't really decided what would be next. I also want to play the Montana chapter. I haven't played them, or the Metal Mouths also seem pretty interesting. I played MacArthur. The Rad Roach King seems interesting, but... And then the Northern... Now Iron Man mode off and everything. And I've only barely played in this region, so I don't know too much about it. I played a little bit of New Canaan forever ago. And I tried out the MacArthurs and Middlemark. I didn't really play them that well, though, or too much. And the Pioneer Company. And that's really it. But let me do this real quick. So, now that I'm done doing what I'm doing, I've never played these people before, so let's actually see what we got. Let's actually start with our focus. We can do a focus while looking. So Hephaestus. Alright. Centuries ago, as the Great War reached its climax, the scientists and engineers of the Hephaestus project had little warning to prepare for nuclear apocalypse, but it was some quick thinking they would decide the fate of the park. So let's do that. Let's get our construction going. Let's just build up the infrastructure. I feel like that'd be pretty good. Let's go a little bit speed. Okay, is there any decisions that need to be taken? Or as it looks, nope. We'll just pay people to keep us safe. Or research. Yep, there we go. Let's get faster research. Some more people. And let's get this one. Hephaestus was a Poseidon Energy project to tap into the magma chambers beneath Yellowstone and build the largest geothermal power plant the world has ever seen. Exceeding all projected outputs during the first test runs, Poseidon was on the cusp of solving the energy crisis forever. With a single plant to power the entire continent. October 26, 2077, the facility director received a simple message through Poseidonet. A warning of imminent nuclear war. The channel was thought secure, but the plant engineers intercepted the signal and learned that the administrators were preparing to seal the facility, and condemn the world outside to die. And an idea quickly spread among the engineers who worried of their friends and family outside the facility. If they could get access to the command center and divert the entire intake reservoir at once and reverse the turbines and accelerate the stream into the reserve power, they could create a controlled eruption, a massive geyser or steam that would repel the clouds of nuclear fallout that would rain down on the region. Many of them were sure to die trying or overtake security. There was no way that administrators would let them do it while they still lived, and the calculations made it clear that doing this with a reactor would destroy most of its systems, destroying what could have been a source of limitless power of future generations to spare only a few lives. but they only saw one choice they could live with. Despite heavy casualties, the engineers' mutiny succeeded, and the steam billowed out of Hephaestus into the heavens like a crack in the earth. The effects on the climate were drastic, bombarding the region with constant torrential rain and storms, which only served to replenish geysers. The flora and the fauna of the park struggled to survive on the faint sunlight that filtered through the overcast skies, but managed to weather the weeks that followed. When the machines finally broke down and Hephaestus' steam output slowed to a crawl, the jet stream had been successfully altered and substantially diverted away from the park. When the engineers finally emerged from the facility, they found a park ravaged by storms, but untouched by the horrors of the radiation. A verdant garden of old world life that could endure. They could not save the world, but a small slice of it remained. Let me gain caps and water. Okay, oh. Wow. So the temple of Hephaestus, a city would slowly be built, powered by steam still leaking from the temple and populated by survivors of travelers from afar. The rise of the cult of Hephaestus saw the name Anvil in honor of its proud tradition of metalworking. So, first ecologist, Sebastian. Which we lose resource gain efficiency, gain weekly manpower, more output, and more growth. Pacifist traditions, low war sport. Expensive cost for conscription. Confused chain of command. Oh gosh. So our countries are not going to be doing too great. The EPA. The city of Anvil. The aftermath of Hephaestus eruption, the grounds surrounding the facility were flattened by torrential rains and mudslides, with plenty of scrap and construction equipment left in Hephaestus, and a constant flow of refugees seeking safety in the park. The site quickly became a small town of shacks and shanties. Over the following almost 2 centuries, those shacks have evolved into true buildings with brick, fresh wood, and even glass from New Hampton, steam pipes, and pneumatic mail tubes across this small city named Anvil in honor of the god Hephaestus and his temple, which provides continuous harvest of ores and ash, which has turned into a hub of barding and innovation in the park. While there is a little central authority in Yellowstone, and Anvil itself has a mayoral election every year and houses the largest ranger lodge in the park, making it the de facto capital of the world. Yeah, so it looks like we have a lot we gotta do. And this prosperity comes with many complexities. We have Anvil and one bunker in Yellowstone. Let's go to the ecologists. Our pre-war reactor, Hephaestus, is responsible for much of our prosperity, heating our homes, lighting our nights. Its origins, however, stretch back, a dangerous pre-war project that could have ruined the park and still might. Oh gosh. The world was on the cusp of greatness, they say, or was it hubris? Poseidon Energy drilled deep beneath the waves for the last of Earth's oil. They harnessed the sun to keep old Vegas ablaze. And in Yellowstone, once a park, they drilled Earth's marrow for energy. Marvelous in men's eyes, all night and all day. Onto them a fire blaze, tireless and unquenchable. Poseidon's Hephaestus project, they say, would have powered 20 million homes for thousands of years. They say it would have solved the resource crisis, or they say it would set off a volcano or another nuclear winter. But they say a lot of things, don't they? Yellowstone's park rangers refuse to activate the plant, but others wonder what awaits if it does. Please don't blow up. Alright. Oh gosh. So we have no trade. The confusing energy credit system of Yellowstone doesn't exactly work without electricity, and Without real physical currency, the park can only trade with outsiders through bartering. This doesn't tend to result in favorable deals for us. Okay, wow. And a stagnant economy. And we're electrophobic. I think I'm going to read these two. I'll read events, but I think after a while I'll stop reading the descriptions of the, oh gosh, focuses, that's the name of it. Foundation of Ecologists. The survivors of Festus were not the only people in the park when they emerged. Protesters against Hephaestus' environmental impact, assorted tourists, and the park rangers had all managed to survive in the park through the rains. Outside of Yellowstone itself, Hephaestus had protected a few small towns, and the rangers managed to keep them in contact. But most mysterious of the survivors were the staff of a single spire, stretching like an ivory tower at the edge of the park, watching down on everything. It would be some weeks before a representative emerged on behalf of the research lab's founders, the EPA. Disputes over the right of succession emerged almost as soon as they arrived, with the EPA representatives believing that as the federal agency of the park was now under control, and the park rangers butting heads over their historic failures in being unqualified to protect the park and the people. A coalition of protesters, tourists, and surviving engineers that dubbed themselves the ecologists emerged, and eventually an agreement was reached that the three groups would all share some say of how the park was run, with the majority ecologists taking the lead. With most policy, the EPA continuing its role to regulating environment and doing research, and the park rangers providing defense and general peacekeeping in the region. The status quo remained for almost 2 centuries, creating a stable, if slow, to respond government, at least until recently. And we get the ecologist legacy, which gives us less supply consumption, hampers our growth by 10%, and more research, 5%. They call it Hephaestus. In the century since it saved the park, Hephaestus has become so much more than a power plant, and it stands as the greatest temple in all of Yellowstone, where the local congregation gathers to worship the god of the forge. Let's do that. We gain 10,000 caps every quarter. We have, let's pay more people. Park patrol or park rangers. It's 5 spec ops. 2 knights. I imagine these are more enforcers. Okay. Looks like we have pretty good research over there. Okay, the cult of Hephaestus. The ecologists, EPA, and the park rangers form the largest group in the park, but they are not the only faction that call it home. Where the city of Anvil, a strange cargo cult took root shortly after the war. The followers of Hephaestus worship an ancient god of the forge and hold the building as his temple. Their metallicism. Wow, I cannot read today. The metalsmiths, some of the finest in the north, and their influence strong in Anvil. Their beliefs include great deities spoken of in ancient texts and predecessors. The cult of Poseidon, including Gaia, Poseidon, Hades, Hermes, Hyperion, Athena, and most predominantly Prometheus, who stole the light of the fire to share with all of humanity. But many speak of another god, one that dwells beneath Hephaestus, beneath the realm of Hades, and stories passed down from the park's founders, a monster that sleeps in the depth. But where does the story come from? Let's just give us more metal. Intimate invasion. Wars are all roping around the wasteland, with their greatest secret leaking into the outside world. It seems inevitable that Yellowstone is going to be forced into a war with its neighbors. At least that's what the park rangers believe. The ecologists are reluctant to admit this to the people and to themselves, but the writing's on the wall. Okay, let's look at what other troops we have. Geological Guardians. 4 infantry, and some knights. Just last night, a zeppelin came by under cover of a storm, hurtling down somewhere into the less traveled part of Yellowstone Park. On it, a somewhat familiar symbol embolized one we've heard tales of out west. Brotherhood, a search party will be sent out to find the survivors. Ooh. Estranged Midwesterners. After 2 weeks of searching, we've tracked down the majority of the wreckage and nearby cavern. A group of Brotherhood Steel Paladins were found tending to the wounded, though they were guarded at first. They allowed us inside once they realized we weren't a threat, at least so they believed. Pressing for further details, they told us they went far, far off their intended course. How do we deal with them? We could offer them medicine. The Montana chapter would remember this. Some of the paladins will stay behind to help. MacArthur would become greater enemy. We let Yellowstone decide their fate and took what they had, which will just get more power armor, or we helped them and sent them on their way. And we get supplies. Honestly, there's no reason not to do this one. We're gonna fight the other ones, no matter what, or the MacArthurs. Among the Brotherhood, thankful for assistance, one decided to stay behind upon hearing our troubles, her name being Paladin Ergo. With rumors of the Enclave, she implored to stay behind whilst her compatriots traveled toward their intended destination. We welcome her with open arms. We get her as a unit leader. And they get attack bonuses against me in the Montana chapter. MacArthur doesn't get army experience. So hopefully that doesn't bite us in the butt later. And we'll just let these guys in. Well, our economy's not doing too good. Oh, rising tensions. Yeah, we'll do the EPA next. In all the horrors of the old world, the EPA stood alone, as was the organization that would stand against greedy corporations seeking to exploit Mother Gaia for their own gain. Or at least that's what they say. If the androids of the tower are truly the heirs of their tradition, it would be wise to listen to their demands, which would give us an intelligence agency and gives us the dietary laws. Rising tensions. In recent years, violence has been escalating all around Yellowstone. Cyborg raiders from the east have arrived on our borders, beginning raids with their monstrous bodies. The stormmongers north of us to continue to pollute the skies with their wretched machines and violent rituals. Ranger scouts have reported murmurings among the steam cults in Heaven's Guard, suggesting they learned about Hephaestus, and whispers have spread among reclaiming the ultimate source of steam from us. But the worst of all, the previous first ecologist was killed in a skirmish with a new threat from the north, calling themselves the Enclave, forcing the young but driven Sea Bastion to take up the role. The mysterious force of soldiers has taken over MacArthur Air Force Base and subjugated the families of Missoula, and their technology bears the markings of Poseidon, suggesting they may be planning to take Hephaestus for themselves. The inability of the pacifist ecologists to provide a decisive response has led to them increasingly looking to the EPA and the park rangers, who each promise their own answers to the problems. So we could be the people, which would be the rangers, or we could go to the EPA, which will be the elites. Let's see what actual roles we could take real quick. Yeah, this is more the Hephaestus cult, which seems interesting. Or we get the EPA. Yeah, no, let's do the EPA Android production. That sounds really cool. Maybe one of these other days I'll have to go down this other route, but for right now, let's play with robots. I feel like that's a good idea. The EPA knows everything. We don't have any special corporations, which kind of sucks. It would have been nice if they would give us like a corporation that would give us more energy cell production or gain. And looks like we're producing everything we need. Like I said, knights are the enforcers, so that's pretty cool. I like how they're called knights, though. It gives them a unique thing. Familiar faces. Let's just get the new researchers going first. Let's take work camps. I don't know what to do next for construction and stuff. From the north today came a small band of familiar-looking soldiers, wardens of the White. Though they looked far worse aware of any of us remember. They shared stories of an immortal who ravaged Washington and of the downfall of the nation, and came with express sympathies and wishes to reconnect with us. Who are we to refuse good trade in the waste? Not too shabby. Add Yellowstone Foxtrot Trade Network, which gives us more passive income. There we go. And it seems like I don't think it's these people. It has to be this one. I don't know if Heaven Guard is in Washington. Oh. Okay, Daily Trade Laws. We got the EPA agents. This is impossible. It can't be. Ranger Isaac stared in horror at the declaration. For years, the EPA had come down hard on ranchers, making it harder and harder to keep livestock up to code. Eventually, there were no longer any Brahmin being raised for milk or meat left in the park. Isaac and other rangers were forced to turn to traders for the fix of meat. The androids assured the rangers that they had carefully formulated the mixture of beans, nuts, and other veggies of their rations to provide more than adequate nutrition. But every time the caravan passed, the rangers and townfolks would always pay the exorbitant fees for real meat. But this was just a step too far. They had finally done it. They had declared that the sale and trade of meat in the park was henceforth be forbidden. Of course, androids can't technically enforce this rule of any more than the rest they still can't read, proclaiming. But this was only going to make the ecologists pushing him to give up meat entirely all the more annoying. Guess it's time to get used to it. I'll get my Brahmin from Middlemark. Since we're going with the EPA, let's do it this one. Guess it's time to get used to tofu. And then let's rally the park rangers. This talks about how the old park rangers rally defense to take care of the fragile ecosystem. Do we have enough equipment in stores? Yes. And we still don't have money. Yes. Nice. Yeah, so I don't know. We're still recruiting. We can't buy any of this. We could get somebody though. Oh, we finish Ohm's Law. Let's get the resistor going. These people seem pretty basic from what I could tell. We have this one. More political power. Hardly any, but some. More stability, trade income. Actually, let me look at more of them. Into Hades. More infrastructure. Let's get this first. Building factories for self-defense. We have no use for them yet. Or for our operator, or whatever their name is. Or what they're called, spy. Could we actually, do we have someone who would give us, okay, let's give us experience. Less air doctrine cost. It looks like we're meant to go down conventional warfare, so I'll just do that. Oh, maybe not, since we have robots. I can't tell if it's actually gonna be robots or what. Give me this one. This is just making a better professional army to protect ourselves, which will actually come in use for when MacArthur comes. And let's maybe try to get another park ranger. And then I think after this we'll go for this one. And get rid of our pacifist traditions. Yeah, so a lot of these are the basic people, so a pretty big update from what it used to be, but still needs some things. Still good though. I don't know anything about the storemongers, slave artisans. Oh, well, they are interesting. I've never played them. Oh well, I've not seen those actually be produced in the base game in quite a long time. Yeah, let's do this one. Deep beneath the earth is a chasm of the heart of Yellowstone. A chamber lies behind the 6 feet of molten steel. Inside lies the Demuge, the false god, the great enemy of life. Only the bravest miners dare pass its tomb. Let's do that. Now let's actually look back at more what we'll be making. Because we're having robots take over. But is it actual robots we'll be using? No, from what I could tell, it doesn't seem like actual robots would be taking over. But it looks like we'll be integrating people into our robot community. Oh, the metal moths are also another people I want to play as. They seem very interesting. I tried one time and I died pretty quick. So maybe I'll have to give them another try. And we have more political power. Let's pause it. I feel like this one would be pretty good. This one would be pretty good. But I think this one. Resource gain efficiency. We need the resources caps and caps. So let's do that. And the followers. Let's go war with a reason. It's time to finalize our final preparation, setting up emergency defenses, evacuation. War is inevitable. There you go. Beneath Hephaestus lies an unfathomable large network of tunnels, caverns, mines, and hidden facilities that stretch on seemingly forever. This volcanic underworld is known as Hades to the cult of Hephaestus, regarding as sacred ground only ventured by the brave. Acolytes, treasure hunters, and those simply seeking to make ends meet consistently explore the tunnel, mining ore from the caves or digging up raw magma to filter for precious material. For all its riches, Hades is a place not to visit lightly, with the risk of the cave-ins and stories of strange creatures and dangerous crystals making every trip a risk. But even the documented tunnels hide horrors of humanity. Deep in the bowels of Hephaestus, lost machinery lies forbidden chambers, sealed shut by 2 feet of molten lead and guarded at all hours. Here in the vaults of Tartarus lie the most profane inventions of the cult of Poseidon, weapons and armor deemed forbidden by the founders of Yellowstone. While it's much to be certain, the cultists of the park whisper that the vaults were built to hold something else, a god. The demiurge, they call it. Is it a false god? Can only see itself, wrongly assumes that is everything. The final sin of the cult Poseidon, it slumbers there, still dreaming of the day it could reach out through the electric tendrils and claim its place as a god of all it sees. Nothing more than foolish suspicions, or if there is something there, we need to figure this out. Let's investigate it. There's no downsides about that. And it says it gives us decisions. The EPA androids were only positioned in the park for one reason: to investigate the environmental impact of Poseidon's Energy Hephaestus project. If they could figure out the significant enough crime tied to the plant, they may be able to escape their programming limits and finally leave their ivory tower. Despite people's superstitions, there are a number of drives and holotapes still preserved in the ruins of Hephaestus. Convincing them to hand them over could be the first step of figuring out the mystery of this monad. Searching old Poseidon files. Let's see what that is, I guess. And we got done 4 camps. Okay, we do not have that type of air tech. Let's just go down to conventional and start working on this. We have seed selection done. Wow, we have not really good research. Geez, for this, let's get let's all research. Oh gosh, let's pay our way. There we go. We're so close. So I wonder what this actually is going to do for us. Oh, wow, that was been quicker than I thought. Poseidon Energy files were dead end. The obsession with naming projects after Greek myth resulted in dozens of files of projects inspired by the ancient polytheism, but no reference to the Neo-Paleolithic school of thought that the word demiurge derives from. If such a project did exist, it was either too secret to keep records of in these servers, or its name changed under an alias. While we are no closer to discovering the source of the rumor, we have undiscovered inconsistencies. Well, still can't read. And the project's local finance reports that many hold a clue. Perhaps we could get the Wastelanders to retrieve some records from the surrounding areas. With the right incentive, send out the meteors at once. Follow the paper trail. Okay, well, seems like we're still going to be doing these. I thought we'd be done. Yellowstone, local factories, 10%. Yeah, let's do that. Full of paper trail. If there is no digital evidence, there still may be physical proof. We set up a bounty system, handsome rewarding wastelanders who bring us information on Poseidon Energy activities in the region before the war to find every scrap of that scrape. Still can't read of data. And we're just going to fast forward through this. Okay, now I skipped forward a little bit and we're almost done with the paper trail and about done with this. So let's go to this next. So this is, we're going to be riding into war with bikes rather than actual vehicles. Solid thing to do, I guess. Uncooking the books. Analyzing the accounts of Poseidon Energy has proven difficult, requiring collecting many records even passing wastelanders could find for us. But we have finally gotten a fuller picture. It would appear that Poseidon Energy had promised shareholders Hephaestus would be a plant that could power the entire continent, drawing intense and personal interest from the board and turning into the centerpiece of their next expansion strategy. Our analysis proves that this was impossible, and it appears the original project engineers agreed, requesting more funding and equipment in a desperate attempt to make the plant reach an output that was not physically possible. There are no records of what the provided equipment was, but at least one barely coherent holotape makes mention of an important name, Borges. We should have expected he would be connected to this. Investigate the Far Sun incident. Oh, gosh. Is it him? Nope. I've never played these people. Oh, they seem like a really cool concept. They remind me of the mole people and like Incredibles, not Invincible, Incredibles. That's what he reminds me of. Although I hardly know anything about it. I've never gotten too deep in that lore. Or like the mole miner stuff, and I'm just not that knowledgeable in it. Maybe this one. Infrastructure and civilian cost reduction. Which will make it good for those. The correction of that. Then I think maybe recruit all mutants. I don't think we need undesirables, and maybe outsider battalions. Or work on those. I think we keep this for right now. There's no real reason for us to increase our manpower yet. Although we probably would need to soon. We'll do this next. Broken? I don't know who that is, but let's do that. I know there's organizations, but I don't think Broken is specifically one. Gunrunners. That's who it is. It's just Broken. Guess that lets the mod makers know which ones they need to fix. The Far Sun incident. Alton Burgess was already subject of EPA investigation before the war of his involvement in the so-called Far Sun incident. His mining company attempted to copy atomic mining services by detonating a nuclear weapons underneath Wyoming, intent on creating a crystalline material known as ultracite. The rush explosion resulted in the worst environmental catastrophe in the state's history and drew our full attention to what EPA could not discover in this time how he obtained nuclear device in such a magnitude in the first place, restoring the tape to be uncovered, referring to other cases in the region that concluded Altenburg should reach out to Poseidon Energy, offering Ultrasight in a favorable contract to provide more to Poseidon in exchange for the help procuring this nuclear bomb. Our investigation suggests that Poseidon used its military contracts to move the payload to the ICBM in the silo near Bozeman, providing one to Orges in exchange. Poseidon requested Alton used his mining company to secure Project Thera while there was no other records of the project. So they paid him warheads to get that the entirety of Hephaestus could be seized for this violation. So I think I'll be ending this here today. And I'll make a new episode soon on Yellowstone National Park. I wish you guys have a good day. I haven't done this before, so here is my first try.